What's up, everybody? Welcome again
Cheers.
for another week, and we're happy to be here. We're actually absolutely honored that you would tune in to hear us process the issues live. Shout out to Jake for letting me host this week while he's gone. And
Now, who decided that?
that was Jake. So I haven't quite mastered sharing tabs with audio on them. So we're gonna be text based today, talking over it. Thank God I have some awesome guys helping me out. We got Zane, we got Alden, we got Nick. Shout out to you fellas. What you drinking?
I got water.
Yeah.
Zane, what do you got?
I've got some cranberry wine, which I picked up over the summer when I was at a cranberry bog. But honestly, if you gave me this and told me it was cranberry juice, I would believe you. You would not realize there's any alcohol in this at all.
That's funny. What's the ABV on that? Is it like below normal wine level? Or?
I'd have to check. I don't think it's like low. I think it's like pretty similar to regular wine, but it's just
Probably
so
like
sweet.
12 or something. Yeah, okay.
Nice.
And then I got, unfortunately, I've just got a kombucha because I'm doing dry January again. It's that time of year. Yeah.
Well, I'm not gonna make fun of you. I'm about to be on that boat myself. But
my liver's happy, but the rest of me is pretty sad.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm rocking the neon green relish from the Hot Butcher.
Oh, I've not had that.
Yeah, it's pretty
Any good?
I mean, it's an IPA.
No, I mean, I drink IPAs. Everyone else hates them. I'm fine.
Yeah. So obviously this week we have a lot to talk about. The abduction of Maduro being first and foremost. Zane, I'm sure you've got a well-crafted rant on this one.
Well, Jake actually told me that he gave me an assignment, which he doesn't usually do, but he was like, come up with a libertarian argument in support of kidnapping Maduro. I'm like, what an interesting question. So I gave it a good think, and this is what I came up with. So, are you guys familiar with the phrase, the proof of the pudding?
Proof is
Yeah.
in the pudding.
Yeah, so it kind of essentially means like the proof of something. Like, how does one demonstrate that something is good? And it's a contraction of what the original phrase was, which is the proof of the pudding is in the eating, which essentially means the way that you demonstrate that something is, like in this case, the way that you tell that the pudding is good is by eating it, which is pretty obvious. But it's like by actually engaging in whatever the activity is, or actually evaluating whatever the thing is, that's how you determine if it's good or not. You can't, it's hard to speculate whether something is good or not without actually getting your hands dirty and seeing for yourself.
We got to pass this bill to see what's in it, right?
Well, in the case of Obamacare, the phrase "the proof of the pudding is in the eating" would mean the proof of whether Obamacare works or not is what happens to the healthcare market in the decade after you pass it. So we would know, almost 20 years removed from Obamacare, we can all see it's been a huge failure. So, but again, with the kidnapping of Maduro, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. In that, from a libertarian perspective, the Venezuelan regime has no inherent right to exist because it's just a state, and it's an extremely corrupt and violent state, even when judged among other states. So the libertarian critique of regime change is that it makes the United States a militarist society when it otherwise should be a republic. And practically, it never works. Every time we've tried regime change in the past, we've wasted a whole lot of money on it. And the society whose regime we were trying to change got a lot worse instead of better. So like Iraq, obviously, Saddam Hussein is a bad guy. But when you overthrow Saddam and end up with Shiite militias, that's even worse.
Can we go back to that we helped put Saddam into place before in another regime change? So it's just this never-ending cycle.
Yeah.
So my point being, to put a nice bow on it, if we kidnap Maduro and the result somehow is that Venezuela gets better, then good job, President Trump. You did it. However, we are way too early in the process to actually know if that's what's going to happen or not. So,
pudding's still in the oven.
Just point out that at least our interference in Venezuela is in accordance with the Monroe Doctrine, which, for those who don't know, the Monroe Doctrine, it was issued by James Monroe all the way back in like the 1820s. And the idea was telling all the European powers to stay out of Central and South America because this was at the tail end of all of their colonial empires in the Americas. And Monroe was like, stop interfering. We'll handle any issues that go on over here in the Western Hemisphere. And of course, the corollary to that is we will butt out of European affairs because they have nothing to do with us and they're very far away. Now, of course, the entire history of the 20th and 21st century up to this point has been a rejection of our part of the deal, where we get involved anywhere that we want in Europe and the Middle East and Africa. But at least this time, we're in our own backyard. It actually kind of makes sense why we would have a strategic interest in what happens in Venezuela in a way that it doesn't make sense that we would in Yemen or Iran. So, again, that's not really a full-throated endorsement of it, but at least there's a small possibility that it could be less bad than other regime changes.
Or is it just coincidental that this time that we're meddling, it happens to be geographically a little closer than most times that we meddle?
And let's keep in mind, this is not the first time that we've done this, right? The primary example in mind is Panama with, the same sort of move against Noriega, grabbing him, invading Panama, grabbing him and dragging him back to the U.S. over similar claims. So
exactly. And again, it was over U.S. physical assets. So, like, we built the canal. So if the dictator of Panama says, "Hey, you can't have access to that," we're going to go, "Wait a second, we built this. Like, you're gonna open that door because it's my door." It's in your backyard, but I built it. So, like, I've got the master key to it, and it goes boom if you don't open it. Same thing with Venezuela. So from my understanding, the oil fields, a lot of the mechanisms to extract the oil out of the oil fields, even though they're done with Chinese joint ventures, is U.S. infrastructure. It's our materials, it's our workers, it's our technology that help build that stuff.
A lot of the places are in South America and Africa are.
I think a lot of the refining is. Well, there's only certain refineries that can handle the Venezuelan crude.
Yeah.
I believe, so I think that's America.
Galveston, Texas being primary among them. Yeah, Galveston, Texas is the one, it's the biggest one in the world that's built to handle and process the Venezuelan crude because it's like a high sulfur content, I think. It's like sticky crude.
Yeah, it's like a heavy sour versus like West Texas, which is called light sweet.
Yeah. The Texas tea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and then not only that, but with the Chinese joint ventures, the way they operate from a business perspective is they give loans to these developing countries. This is how they have a foothold in large parts of Australia, the undeveloped parts of Africa, and even, the more impoverished parts of the developed parts of Africa, is they'll go in there and give loans to them or give them money, give them something that they know they can't pay back. And so what they do is they say, "Hey, well, okay, you can't pay me back. Fine, we'll extend the loan." They do that a couple of times. It rolls over interest. It gets big enough, and then they go, "Tell you what, don't worry about paying me back. Just give me that dam. Give me that mine. Give me the mineral rights. Give me the oil rights. And
give me a man after midnight."
That's right. And that's kind of how they get a foothold in places and then just take over. And then they own the place because they gave you a loan. They knew you couldn't pay back. The interest rolled over. The terms got big enough that they just said, "Okay, tell you what, just let me have this, and tell you what, we'll even let your people work there."
This whole thing is well spelled out in things like what is it? Confessions of an Economic Hitman.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever read that book. but
I
he
haven't.
was he was an economic advisor that basically went around and did these things in countries. So okay, we're going to set you up with this. We're going to get the IMF loans for that. We're going to do that, and it was going to be set in a way that that the economic prosperity you're going to get out of that is not going to be enough to pay back on the loan. At which point, then U.S. or generally U.S. companies could then take that over and turn it into their personal profit centers. And then if you weren't willing to play ball, he constantly referred to them as the jackals would come for the leader. So you had, so then you had the interference on the other side, but it was basically, oh, we're gonna, and the U.S. is fine with a dictator who's playing ball, right? Like, okay, yeah, you're gonna sell us this, we're gonna profit off of this. You're going to work yourself into that, but you're going to be comfortable. You're going to be rich. As long as you want to do that and play ball with us, you're going to be fine. The second you don't want to, there's that. And then I think some of the other interesting things that happen with that, what is it, Bangladesh? The IMF plays a similar thing there. I forget what is it? Is it Alex Gladstein's book? I'm trying to remember. I have it around somewhere, I think down on the bookshelf in the basement. But the IMF, World Bank, that whole conglomeration, basically what they did there was, the coastal towns, villages that were, living off the land, so just barely sustaining. The government cuts a deal, comes in there, and it's okay. You're gonna force these guys who are making their own food to turn their fields into shrimp ponds. So a lot of the cheap shrimp you get from stores comes out of Bangladesh because the deal they cut was, okay, we're gonna do this, and the way you're gonna pay it back is you're gonna grow shrimp. So now the people have to, well, one, they dump salt water all over their fields to grow these shrimp, so you're not growing agriculture there again. And then that turns around, they make a little bit, they don't make much money. So now everything that they spend, rather than at least it coming from the community, is then, they then have to go out and buy everything to survive versus being able, and it turns into a whole giant mess playing it that way. But, if it enriches empire or, the banks or whoever, but that's the kind of games going on at the world stage with these third world countries.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's, I don't know. I mean, like, so the pledge, to join the Libertarian Party, I just renewed my membership here in Georgia. And, one of it is I disavow the use of violence to advance political means, or the initiation of violence. I disavow the initiation of violence to advance political means.
That's the book, Hidden Repression, How the IMF and World Bank Sell Exploitation as Development, by Alex Gladstein.
Nice. I'll have to check that one out.
Yeah, there are a bunch of more cases that I can't remember the specifics, but it's happened a bunch of times where, just like Nick said, in Bangladesh, where they stop growing subsistence crops and start growing luxury export products, where they change the economy from being able to operate on its own to something that it only works if your entire plan is to export everything to other countries. And then
a barely survivable on its own, but people were getting by. It's not a wealthy country, it's not a developed country, but people were getting by through their local economy, through their hyper local economy, and then they come in and turn it into exports.
What the IMF is doing in these cases, it's essentially a perversion of the good argument in favor of free trade, because, as we would all know as good libertarians, free trade makes everyone better off. But it's not the trade itself that makes people better off. It's that free trade allows you to make trades that, in your own opinion, as expressed in the things that you buy, you believe make you better off. It's not the trade itself that's making you better off. So if people are growing subsistence crops and someone comes along with a plan to start growing shrimp for export, it's not that they suddenly become more prosperous just by the sheer fact of the export. It would actually have to be economically better on its own terms. And all free trade does is allow that trade to happen if it is better. It doesn't guarantee that the trade is better in every case.
Yeah. But
yeah, I'm with you there. But what I was getting at, tying that back into the whole libertarian pledge about disavowing the initiation of force to advance political means. I think if there is a libertarian case to get Maduro out of there the way that we did, it's to say that he was the aggressor in some sense.
I would say in a lot of senses.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have friends that came over here as immigrants that worked for years to get their green card. Worked with one of them a couple of years ago at a previous company, and she was just talking about growing up under Chavez before Maduro even took over. And they would have, elementary school kids, they would bring them into the cafeteria in the morning and they would say, pray to Jesus for your breakfast. And then they wouldn't serve them breakfast. And they go, now pray to Hugo Chavez for your breakfast. And of course, they do. And then they see which one actually feeds you and takes care of you.
This has been going on a long time.
Oh man. So, what we're dealing with is multiple generations of like absolute brainwashing here.
Mm-hmm.
And aside from that, there's hundreds of thousands of them that were celebrating this guy being out of there. And that's another thing and I heard Marco Rubio talking about this over the weekend, was 8 million people have left Venezuela in the last 7 or 8 years.
It wouldn't be surprising.
I mean, it's to a point that like Brazil and Colombia are, it's a big concern for them that, the amount of people leaving that country should have all the wealth they need. And due to the conditions, they're having to leave to go look for opportunity somewhere. And it's, that big of a migration. Now, granted, we're much bigger than them. A country of 300 something million, we can handle a few million a year, although it is breaking our system too. But for a much smaller country, let me look it up. How many people live in Brazil?
Well, to be fair, the way that it's done here is great. Millions do over time add up, but what's really breaking it is the way it's done also. Just, let's let all these people in, and we're just going to do this, do that, and give a whole bunch of welfare for this, and give a bunch of Somalis a bunch of fraudulently claimed. We'll get to that story. But, I think that also causes strife whenever, there's not a want or a necessity to in any way assimilate to that. But I'm sure I'll rant on that later.
Yeah, there you go. Well, Alden, you're usually good about straddling both sides of the fence on these kind of issues. Like, where are you at with this thing? Are you torn? Are you on one side or the other?
With the last detail that was just said, like, I agree with the sense of like you can handle an influx of a certain amount of people over time, but I do see like when you start getting like the taxpayer money of the nation that's there, of people that already are citizens going to non-citizens, then that's way out of balance. And it kind of reminds me of almost like the kind of immigration equivalent of like subsidies or something, where you're like artificially now injecting money into something that then promotes more immigration. Because when they see that there's this big advantage, there's more of a push to go there. Whereas if there was no, tax paid level incentivized, help coming in on a pretty large scale for certain instances that I've heard of, at least, then I do think it's a little bit more of like the natural sort of free market equivalent of immigration, if that was to make any sense.
Yeah.
If you were asking, were you trying to get more at the Maduro story in general?
Oh, well, then
his opinion on that. Or?
In the larger scheme of things, then I generally side with not meddling. Like the U.S., I wish we would just stay the fuck out of, and then we would have to, we meddle, and I'm like, oops, we got to fix our metal. Oop, we got to back out of our metal, and we got to meddle in this other place, and it just, I don't know, man. I just don't see a lot of benefit from it over the years. And like I was saying when we were talking about Iraq, and it was like, oh, Saddam Hussein, and Zane was like, yeah, and it's like no one's like saying he's a good guy, but we helped put him into place before. And then we go in and we, like, you know what, never mind, you're out of there. And then like it didn't help anything. And then we pull out and it's a mess. And it's like, it's just a mess at every turn. And I just wish we would stop doing it.
Yeah. And, this is what sucks about, we do this once a week. And I listen to Dave Smith's show, and he pretty much puts my thoughts out there already. So, if you've listened to him on that, you kind of have at least a good solid idea of where I stand on this. But like, it's a little bit embarrassing from the Trump administration here, because they just don't have a story on what they were doing or why they're doing it or whatever, right? Like, they're so scattered on this whole thing, you know. What they're claiming he was the cartel boss, and now it's coming out, or it's not even mentioned in the indictment or something, or there's a chance that this cartel of the Sun or whatever they call it is just not even a real organization. They just made it up to claim he was. And like, that's starting to come out there. There's the claim that, oh, we just arrested a drug dealer, he wasn't the president of a country. And that's kind of a hard claim, even, yeah, he wasn't elected, he's not, or he may not have been elected, reelected, whatever, properly, but we do support dictators around the world, so that's not an excuse there. And the hard part, I think the biggest part is, and like Zane said, the proof is in the pudding, right? The proof in the pudding is eating it, or whatever.
The proof of the pudding is in the eating.
Yes, is in the eating. At the very least here, right? The vice president, who I guess there's some claims may have been at least involved a little bit on the U.S. side in allowing this to happen. Who knows if it was going to happen or not? And the vice president figured it. Well, if I play ball enough and let it happen, or provide some intelligence or whatever, then I get to keep it. I don't know the details there, but that's what I've heard speculated. The Maduro's vice president's now president, and everyone who's in power is still everyone who's in charge of the bureaucracy is still in charge of the bureaucracy. So you took the head off, but the head wasn't really doing that much, really. It's hard to tell on it. I mean, maybe it starts a chain reaction, but at the very least, at the best case, the worst case there, the best case there is basically nothing happens. The worst case is that this weakness from the top results in armed conflict, massive refugee crisis, civil war over it. It's just, everyone celebrating this is just way too early on it. Like, yeah, okay, you invaded a country and grabbed the guy. You got out without any American. You got in and out without any American deaths. You did have one helicopter pilot, from what I saw, get shot in the leg. But okay, you had a successful operation, but this claim of we're going to run it and this and that, I don't know how that's going to happen. At the same time, you're playing on the Greenland side of things, and I've heard a lot of the speculation. Well, I've heard some speculation on this, or some logic to it is, if we can secure the Venezuelan oil, then a move can be made against Iran, and then there's oil for the world markets if Iran closes the Strait of Hormuz in response to some sort of action there. So, what's the actual reason behind it? Why was it so important to go get Maduro now, right? Like, he's been around since, I think, Chavez died in 2013, I think.
That's actually a really good question.
So, it's been like this for a while. I mean, Venezuela's been a mess from it. But I just don't, what's the game being played here? Why did this have to happen now? And it's either there was a bigger plan, or my suspicion is, and whenever I don't know what's going on, don't really have a grasp of what's actually going on, I go back to the Marjorie Taylor Greene's resignation, where she said there's no plan and it's just whatever. And I figured, yeah, it's just a whole bunch of people doing whatever they want, and no idea of, no actual real plan behind any of it. And it's just, in my mind, Marco Rubio doing the neocon thing, and he's Cuban, and this is how he's taking the first strike at that. And, who knows if there's going to be some attempt at Cuba next. We knocked the domino of Venezuela, then do we go at Cuba on that, and at the same time mess around with Iran and apparently Greenland now? And
well, I mean, what do we want from Cuba, though? And that's, the Cuban president was even talking about, like, we're going to resist you with violence or something like that. Like, really, dude, well, roll up your cigars and crank up your 1953 Chevy and come after me.
Yeah.
Well,
the way the dominoes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, I don't see the value of that chess piece. But Venezuela, I see that
There's
being
not a
strategic.
value. There's not a value economically or anything that they can justify. I think it's probably just a personal thing for Rubio.
Yeah, well, make no mistake about it, because we've been talking about it for months. What's at stake here is U.S. dollar hegemony. I mean, that's the number one thing by and large. Because like you said, if it was about evil dictator suppressing his people, this guy's killing his own people, or even stop the spread of communism, we had a case to go do that 12 years ago. So what is the catalyst now? And we know that, Panama Canal seems to be up for grabs. We're just negotiating the price. Are we going to go through it by political means, or are we going to negotiate it civilly through BlackRock? Stability. And then not only that, but U.S. dollar hegemony for the entirety of South America. Because Venezuela, we're not really going to flip Brazil. Bolsonaro, he's come and gone. I don't know who's in there right now.
Isn't it
Brazil,
Lula again?
I think so. Brazil's the next most powerful nation there. You got Argentina, but they're in trouble. We just bailed them out big time. They're doing good things, but we're not going to see. I don't think we're going to see a global net positive from that this decade.
No.
Right. So, how do we keep them wanting and using U.S. dollars? You got to go after the oil trade, but then not only that, there's rare earth minerals there, there's gold, and then, like I said, stability in the region. 8 million people have left that country in the last decade. It's putting stress on all the surrounding nations. So you stabilize that, you maintain U.S. dollar hegemony, then you can turn your focus, as you're negotiating the Panama Canal deal, then you can turn your focus to either Greenland or Iran, which, like you said, Straits of Hormuz, or both. Whatever kind of chaos you can kick up, because the more and more you marginalize China, I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, it's like he's playing Othello. Because and I hate to say it, but it's one of these situations where either we advance or China will. China's already doing it by subtle means, and we're not so subtle about it. But thank God we went over there and do a Dick Cheney everlasting war. We just went in there. Hey, I need a few helicopters in 2 hours. Boom. Thank God it's like that.
Well, it has been like that again too early. If it descends into a civil war, does that put our people? Does that mean we go in and say, if we're running the country now, does that mean we're going in and and putting some stability to the situation?
Well, and that's the next question to ask here. And you guys might laugh at this, but there's a case to be made on this one. Is this a globo homo kind of deal? Because the next runner up apparently to supplant Maduro is all about the gay marriages and the transgender surgeries and the this and the that and all the parts of Western civilization that even the unindustrialized parts of Africa don't like. So
who's the one? Is this the Machado? Is that who it's referencing as the?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that turned into a whole different thing when Trump blatantly said, "Oh, we have no intention of backing her." And
right.
Then it's coming out that that might be because she won the Nobel Peace Prize over him, and it's like, this is getting ridiculous at this point if that's really what it was. And then she came out after that. It was like, oh, I just wanted to show it to him in person and share it with him personally, and I hadn't had such time to do that. It's like, what are you?
Yeah. But yeah, that's one of the things that Tucker Carlson's talking about, and even Pete Quinones. He was on it before Tucker was, because this Machado lady. That's some of the things that Nobel Peace Prize winner. You think. There was a day and time that was an accolade you wanted on your resume. Like that was, oh, hey, awesome, great job. Like the guy recently, there was a Japanese biologist that discovered autophagy, right? So like if you starve your body for 2 or 3 days, cells start to repair themselves. They devour cancer. They devour the disease first, and your body heals. And then, for a couple of days, it goes into autophagy. He just won the Nobel Peace Prize for that. And you're like, oh, that's awesome. But when politicians win it, it's like,
is it the Peace Prize?
Usually not good.
Or
it sounds like the Nobel Prize for medicine.
There you go. There you go. But yeah, either way, it used to be, something, a great notch to have in the belt. But now it's, you start to wonder how they want it, especially if it's political in nature.
Well,
And so I mean, this is just one side of the argument that you got to wonder, like if it's.
Yeah, it's been a joke since they gave Obama the Peace Prize just for winning office, and and bombing people before he even did anything. He won the presidency. They gave it to him. Then he spent his entire 8 years every day bombing someone. And I'm pretty sure, because it all ties back. The whole Trump run ties back to the one time Obama made fun of him. I mean, I think that's the whole. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's the whole driving factor on the whole thing that started it. Obama won a Nobel Peace Prize, and Trump wants that, right? It comes back to just that whole thing right there.
If we're going to lean back on libertarian ethics, yeah, Maduro invited us. It was consent was given. Come get me, coward. Here I am.
As far as the Nobel Prizes go or whatever, I think it's funny that it was created as like a PR stunt kind of a thing initially by the guy Alfred Nobel or whatever to win favor, with the public originally, because like no one liked him because he was just some industrialist asshole or whatever.
Well, he invented dynamite.
Specifically, what happened was he was the inventor of dynamite, and then a newspaper accidentally printed a pre-written obituary where they were not very nice to him. And then he read that, and he was like, oh no. It was essentially a Christmas Carol type of situation where that caused him to want to change his ways, and then he established the Nobel Prizes.
Yeah. So a funny origin story for something that, then bore weight for a while, and then I think got a little... The Peace Prize especially, I do agree, got really, really just gimmicky and hokey and just giving it out to whoever, and it's basically just like the equivalent of being on Wired magazine at this point. Like, who gives a shit? Like,
well, yeah, that's the weird thing, because you could also look at like the Time Magazine Person of the Year thing, and now it's just all gimmicky hoax.
Well, we were all the Time Person of the Year in 2006. Remember?
That, and this year, I think this year's was AI's Times Person of the Year, and it's like, just call it the Story of the Year or whatever, because you're not choosing a single person. Like, this is absolutely absurd. But
that's actually an interesting comment on the progress of technology, where in 2006 the Time Person of the Year was you, because the internet was going to make it so easy for you to create stuff. And now 20 years later, the Time Person of the Year is AI, because real humans can't be bothered to make stuff anymore, and all we get is AI sludge.
Okay, you make a point there.
13-fingered people and whatnot.
But we had the what was I getting at? But yeah, I think a lot of us who when we saw who won the Peace Prize this year, Machado, I think all of us had a feeling something was going on with Venezuela, that there was some moves going on in the background, and I think anyone looking at that kind of had that proven right.
Brings back to your question of like, more instead of asking the question of like, is it right or wrong or whatever, because we can go about that all day, but just like the why now, I thought was a good question, and how does it play a part in the larger world stage and all that, and what's kind of brewing around it.
In the spirit of their policy of flying by the seat of their pants, you could easily argue that the reason they did it now was because a handful of oil executives that all donated to Trump are getting huge paydays out of this, because their companies are the ones getting custodianship over all of the seized oil assets. So there's that aspect of it as well. But I suppose going back to what Nick was saying earlier, like, I agree insofar as it goes that like the actual charges they're bringing against Maduro are silly and all that, and there's definitely a risk of this turning into something a lot bigger than it is now. But it's like, I'm not going to shed any tears for no matter what charge Maduro gets charged with, because I think we can all agree he's done enough stuff that you could just charge him with all the stuff that everybody knows that he's done and send him to life imprisonment. So
I'm not crying over Maduro. There's no.
And also the operation itself, I mean, you got to admit the U.S. military, in terms of its capacity to carry out operations, they've still got it. It was epic. And also hardly
their
anyone
capacity
died,
to carry out nation building operations, though, is abysmal, and their ability to fight probably a land war is abysmal, and possibly a naval war. But when it comes to special operations, yeah, it's unmatched.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you know, we don't like to see the aggression, right? But oh boy, is it fun to watch.
Yeah. For better or worse, or whatever's worse than worse, but I'm not saying it's not the best at what it does, but it's not the best at what it's telling you why it's doing it. You know, it's just the best at doing the thing, like the physical actual act. But
there you go. Yeah, wish we didn't have to do it or feel like we had to do it, but you know, now that it's done and it's been announced that we just acquired $8 trillion of oil. You know, just watch those Chevron pumps.
Yeah, well, I think
that's the one U.S. company that's based in Venezuela, by the way, is Chevron.
Isn't it Citgo?
Citgo is the Venezuelan state-owned oil company.
Okay.
Chevron was the U.S. company that already had infrastructure down there that is now being supported by the U.S. military.
Okay, so yeah, I think this is the one thing to keep in mind on this. You know, everyone who's out there celebrating, okay, we got rid of the communist dictator. There's still probably a communist dictator in charge. We'll see what happens as far as that. You know, but look at all the oil we got. We didn't get it. It's the oil companies that might get it if that's the way the deal goes. You're not going to see some dramatic decrease of gas prices at the pump. That's just not going to happen here. I know the oil output had gone down, that, you know, through communism being, you know, through his socialism being what socialism is. You know, I think they ran a whole lot of their infrastructure for it just into the ground and couldn't repair it, plus the sanctions. So you've got probably several years of updating the infrastructure, plus the time to get rigs there, drill pipeline infrastructure. I mean, there's a lot that goes on before any, you know, if the country's stable enough that, you know, the new leadership there plays ball and lets American companies in to develop the oil. It's going to be
Are you saying that nation building is worth it if you just have a low enough time preference?
Oh, what I'm saying is, the people who are out there celebrating, look at all this oil we got. It's a ways off before it hits. Yes, Venezuela's got like the biggest reserves in the world, but before it gets to your pump, there's going to be a lot of time, and you know, and oil's priced on the world stage. So, are you going to see massive decreases of prices at the pump? Are you going to have gas under $2 a gallon? No, you're not. You know, you're still going to be paying about the same price. Maybe sometime in the future it's a little lower. I don't know that, you know, but it goes up and down as it is now. But really, you know, the average person here, you did not get anything out of this. I mean, the drugs, the claim of drugs is dubious to begin with. It's not focused on Venezuela is not producing the fentanyl. They're not smuggling the fentanyl, at least not in any noticeable amount, versus, you know, the Chinese fentanyl coming in through the Mexican cartels.
I've never heard of any fentanyl coming out of it.
You're right. It's maybe some cocaine, you know, and I believe Thomas Massey tweeted this. I saw Thomas Massey tweet this. He's like, look at this indictment. Doesn't mention fentanyl once, you know? So, you know, what'd you get? You got, okay, we took a dictator out. I'm not crying over Maduro, you know. I'm just, you know, kind of astounded at where I think maybe Dave Smith also said this, but it's like the second the bombs start dropping, there's like a reset to the right winger brain where, you know, in the Trump campaign, he's, you know, the most, best president, most peaceful, no new wars. And all of a sudden, oh, look at this, we dropped some bombs, we killed, you know, we got this, look at this sweet thing. And you know, the right wing goes into, new country. Let's, you know, it just turned into this whole, like, you know, Iraq 2003 again sort of mentality through a lot of these people. And to the point that they're sharing garbage. Like, you know, a whole lot of people went around, you know, were posting videos of like soccer celebrations and saying, look at how the people in the streets celebrating in Venezuela. And you just see community notes under it on Twitter. Like, yeah, this is from this soccer game on this, and this is from this, and this is from this. And none of these videos they're tweeting out are so it's just garbage slop that's out there, and it's at least a good thing that community notes exists and you can actually see the truth. But
Yeah.
It's there if you want to see it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, y'all have anything else to add to this before we move on?
No, we're done talking about South Americans. Let's talk about Africans.
Yeah, there we go. So let's see here. Let me bring this up. And so the Minneapolis daycare scenario. This whole thing. All right, Zane, you want to give us a quick rundown just in case anyone's been under a rock for the last 2 weeks?
So, there once was a daycare facility known as Quality Daycare, or no, Quality Learning Center. That's the one at the center of this, although there are dozens of other ones. Quality Learning Center. And if you have not seen the memes, it compares the fact that Philip Rivers has 10 kids, which is 10 more kids than Quality Learning Center ever did anything for.
What a weird way to make.
So it turns out that Minnesota, for some, I have no idea how this even happened, because if you live in Somalia,
I think
where it's warm all the time, I don't understand why you would want to go to Minnesota where it's cold all the time. But somehow all of the Somali immigrants to the U.S. have ended up in Minnesota. And they've all, well, not all of them, but what would appear to be a substantial minority of them have gotten together in order to fleece their state's welfare system by setting up all of these daycares, child care centers, medical centers, that don't actually do anything except collect the payments, collect grants from the state and just pocket them. And
massive amounts. It's not like they're getting $10,000. They're getting hundreds of thousands of dollars in a lot of these cases.
And this is not really surprising, especially on the medical angle, because academic estimates of the proportion of all of Medicare and Medicaid spending that gets spent on waste, fraud, and abuse is anywhere between 30 and 50%. Wow. So it's an entire industry that's rife with fraud. But then, of course, when you've got a very insular community that does not, just in general, their culture is not as looking down upon fraudulent behavior and taking advantage of systems in the same way that most Western cultures do. And that's not, of course, to say that there aren't any Somali immigrants that are actually interested in assimilating into American Western culture, because there obviously are. But it's impossible to deny at this point that there are also a lot that aren't. And the ones that aren't really do not have any moral compunction with just flat out committing fraud against the Minnesota taxpayer. And that is what they have been up to.
Yeah, absolutely. So this was an interesting stat. I was listening to the PBD podcast on this a few days ago, and they actually went to this Center for Immigrant Studies, this website that's mentioned in this post. So I did verify this for I'm just posting up a Facebook meme here. So overall in Minnesota, 81% of Somali households are on welfare. 73% are on Medicaid, 54% are on food stamps, 27% are on cash welfare, and then 89% of Somali households with children are on welfare. So, by comparison, there's only 21% of the native-born Minnesota population that are on any kind of welfare program. But what's more is you can look into this for the long-term statistics, and that number barely goes down. It's like 78% after 10 years are still on these welfare programs. So, the safety net, what it was designed for was what? A temporary safety net to get you on your feet.
Well, that's what they told you it was designed for.
If you can't get on your feet after 10 or 12 years, you don't have feet. I mean,
I thought
well, this is why the cultural differences are so important to think about in this context, because when the U.S. made all these welfare systems, the cultural understanding of what they were supposed to be for was exactly as you described. Like in the 50s and 60s, it was actually pretty common to hear people like kind of be ashamed or try to keep it secretive that they were on welfare, because it was something that you didn't want people to know, because it was embarrassing that you would have to take government help, and it would be ingrained in you that that's something that you should get off of as soon as you can, because other people, involuntarily giving their money to you to very temporarily help you out. But in a lot of these Middle Eastern cultures, it's the focus is less on individual achievement and a lot more on how do I most closely identify with my extended family group, and how do I maximize the amount of resources that my clan or tribe is getting. And if the way to do that is by using welfare programs in a way that they were not originally intended, then that's just culturally what they are going to think is the right thing to do.
Wouldn't there be, if there were true limits though on a state level, then wouldn't the cultural differences be kind of moot if it was just like not permitted past a certain point on this end? You know what I mean?
Well, this is the other problem, where now the welfare state in the United States and the rest of the West is run by a bunch of people that either are so disordered in their compassion or just actively hate Western society that they're not able to see how the program is being used, or they're intentionally fleecing everyone for the benefit of foreign cultures,
or even both. Let's not leave out the capacity for negligence or just ineptitude. It could be a mixture of both, but I think it's more a control mechanism. They see it as, because there have been videos surfacing. So the owner of the manager of the Quality Leering Center was seen at a celebration political rally for one of the legislators that just won re-election. It was like last year before, or something like that. And that dude, very distinct face and head shape and all that, and hairstyle. He's in the front row going, yeah, my team won.
Oh, that's the other thing all these places do. All the Quality Learning Center and all the other ones would get the grant money and then turn around and donate a lot of it to local Somali politicians.
Yeah.
Yep. That's how that game's played. Yeah.
And and it's not just the Somali politicians. Like there's white guys from Minnesota, like Tim Waltz white, and they're putting out political ads in Somali.
The mayor of Minneapolis just did that. Yeah. But
the picture of him like eating the Somali food and it being way too spicy for him.
Oh yeah, like almost gagging on it.
Jacob Fry. Yeah. If your name is Jacob Fry, you cannot eat spicy food.
You can't even eat mayonnaise because it's too spicy.
So this is a pretty well established like leftist tactic on this stuff. I know they see it in the UK because like listening to Peter McCormick's show, some of the conversations on there, what they've had happen, well, some of the analysis on some of the guests he's had basically comes down to like the Labour Party. You've got large enough Islamic communities that they could run their own Islamist party candidates. So the Labour Party, which relies on those votes to win those seats to keep as sort of their base, has to out Islamist the Islamist parties in order to win that. So what you see here is the Democrats trying to out Somali, the Democrats are trying to basically say, oh, you can just vote for us because we're just going to give you whatever, which that whole, we're going to give you more than even what you could imagine you could give yourself. Even though, the Somali population is not anywhere near as big, that's still a pretty easy, it's an easy payoff for votes when I'm going to take money from these people and give it to you. And I mean, you want to turn people against immigration, you just start more and more of these stories. There was for a long time there, some of these, Cato and Reason and some of these other Beltway establishment libertarian publishers would constantly make the claim, oh, immigrants provide more than they take out of the system. You can't get, immigrants can't get welfare, this or that. And we're just seeing, they're getting a lot of welfare. They're getting a lot of, they're finding ways to fraudulently acquire money through these things. They're just kind of exploiting every loophole they can find. And you find the Democrats especially are just going along with it. They're happy to do it because, hey, if we're going to look the other way, we can look the other way. You're going to keep getting this money and where your bread's buttered, and you're going to turn around. You're going to vote for the people who are letting you do what you're doing. I mean, that's natural. So, that's the easiest way to buy votes is on the back of the taxpayer. It's just, this community that, once again, when it comes to the immigration stuff, there's people who want to immigrate here because they want to be a part of American culture, want to, become American. And then there's these groups, whether it's the Somalians here, Dearborn, Michigan, where it becomes very, very ethnically centric to one group. And, and it doesn't seem like there's an intent to want to assimilate. There's no force to, because hey, you're winning through on you're getting paid off through the welfare system, through being allowed to fraudulently, to obtain these grants and these other things fraudulently. So why do you have to become part of an American? That makes me think, being from Pittsburgh here, huge history of immigration, right, and a very, very segregated city on that. You talk about Pittsburgh historically. One of the neighborhoods is called I think I've said this before, but one of the neighborhoods is called Polish Hill. Who do you think lived there? Right on the north side. On the north side, you had Deutschtown. You had the Germans. Bloomfield, you had the Italians. You had the blacks had the Hill District. Like these were the neighborhoods.
A sequel to Gangs of New York.
These are the neighborhoods that that were very much ethnically centered, but you know what? There weren't the welfare systems at the time. You came and you were here and you wanted to make a better life, and so you had to go get a job. You had to go work in Andrew Carnegie steel mills. You had to do this. You had to do that, and guess what? That just forced interaction there. You can't become insular. So yeah, you're still in these different neighborhoods, but you're still people from this group and that group are still forced to mix, and as you mix, you do get that quote unquote melting pot, that assimilation. But when it's like, yeah, you don't have to work, you're just gonna create a fake, you're gonna make a fake business and just get government grants worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I mean, what's the reason, right? A lot of these people, do they want to be here to be American, or do they want to be here because they know they can get free stuff? And it seems like there's a lot of it that's now these days free stuff. I mean, when Biden had the border open, it was, how much free stuff can we give these people? Let's have housing in these. We're just going to take this hotel and we're just going to house people here, and we're going to give them food, and we're going to put them in the public schools, and we're going to at one point, Eric Adams, before he massively shifted on this, was like, let's just start giving people in all these immigrants in New York's debit cards to go buy stuff. We're just going to give them money so that they can go buy what they need. I mean, if some countries just come here illegally, you won't be able to work because you're illegal, but we got to take care of these people. We're just going to just give you everything, fuck the taxpayer. They can fund it all. They don't get shit. Life for them gets more expensive and harder. Housing becomes more scarce.
That flies in the face of the short-term plan, like what you just said, where it's like, you won't even be able to work, so we got to help you. And it's like, that's the opposite of the welfare system being the get on your feet again thing so that you can find work. It's like, if you can't even legally obtain work or whatever, then what are we even doing at that point? But,
yeah.
So Nick, I do want to go back to what you were saying earlier about Pittsburgh and some of these other kind of turn of late 19th, early 20th century cities with the different ethnic districts in them. So before the advent of the huge welfare state, a crucial part of how new immigrants and the poor of each ethnic community would get by would be from friendly societies and other forms of voluntary charity from their own ethnic community. And there were actually a lot of progressive era politicians that specifically wanted to create state welfare in order to destroy the unique ethnic identities of the immigrant groups, because they're like, no, we need to all be Americans. We need to stop identifying it all with these various different European or other ethnicities. So this is actually a heritage of progressivism that modern day progressives rarely talk about, because now they're all about not wanting to be American. But in the 1920s, all the progressives were like, no, you need to stop being Polish American or whatever. So we need to get rid of all of these like Polish American friendly societies and charities, so that people don't look to their own communities for help and they all look to the state. Because if you're looking to your own community for help, people that you interact with regularly and respect and share a common culture with, you're going to be a lot less inclined to defraud them, because you know them and they know you. And if you defraud them, that's going to cause you problems in your own interpersonal relations. But if you're not looking to your own people for help, and instead you're looking to Tim Walz and the Minnesota medical bureaucracy, you can get away with whatever you want, because nameless and faceless, and you can just, the fastest way for your entire community to get wealthy is by committing fraud and not by actually taking care of your own.
There you go. Well, and that's that brings me to my next point here. This was something that was pointed out. I saw this J.P. Sears, the comedian. He did a video on this. He's like, it's shocking that. Well, okay. First, let's look at this. So this is a list of average IQ ranked by country. So we know most of our audience is from South Korea, because we only have smart people in the chat. But it's already kind of fake news, because you have to scroll down so far to get to the United States. We're down here, 99.7 average IQ. You keep going down, you go, oh, where's Somalia? Oh, let's keep on going. Oh, let's keep going. Way down the list here. Hold on. There we go. Right there. 67.7 average IQ, which by American healthcare standards is in the mildly retarded range. And I'm using that as a medical term. So these people from a largely, in part, mildly retarded nation whose primary export is piracy moved to Minnesota and committed piracy. How shocking. It's just, how shocking is that? Now, I get it. Just being the third world nation that they come from, they come here. A lot of these people, they come here for opportunity. They come here because they're leaving their nation for a reason. They don't have opportunity. They don't have the money they need. Their basic needs are not met. Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Well, I wouldn't say opportunity. I would say the resource part, but opportunity would mean out there trying to look, trying to provide and not put, at least the way I'm saying, I want to differentiate between like people who are clearly like trying to become American, come here to work and actually contribute and permit and commit, and people who seem to have been brought here for the purpose of receiving free stuff.
Right.
And you also have to remember that the subset of the population of Somalia that immigrates to the United States, like Somali Americans are a statistically different group than all Somalians as well. So there's that aspect to it, because
if you're doing well,
even coming to the United States for the express purpose of committing fraud takes a certain level of initiative.
It does. Now they're terrible at covering up the fraud, but it's.
But that's not initiative. That's follow through. That's a different thing.
On one hand, you do have to respect the hustle, because I saw a story that one of the daycares, what they were doing is that so they would get this grant approved for 1.5 million, 2 million, whatever it was, and they would have the local parents actually bring in real kids, and they bring them in, sign them up, so they're using real kids, real parent signatures, real addresses, real social security numbers, so everything gets verified because it was checked on the federal level.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing is they weren't actually running a daycare. So what they're doing is they're just bringing their kids in, signing them up, and then they hand them an envelope full of cash, and they go away, and that's it.
Wow, kid tested, mother approved.
Right. So there's a lot of the locals that are in on this, so, because they're just like, hey, let us use your information for this form. I'll give you $2,500 cash.
Now,
or whatever it was,
Now that you say that, the specter of Milton Friedman's negative income tax has appeared, because what is essentially going on here are the Somali families saying, we're entitled to a certain market value of welfare in total, and instead of free childcare, we'd rather just have the cash. And Milton Friedman would say, why don't you just give them the cash to begin with?
There you go. And so, here's something else that comes to my mind, around this whole thing. Now that we know what gangsters some of the Somali population is around Minneapolis, going back to this state rep and her husband that were assassinated in their home. Now, of course, you read the CNN story and it's kind of a big scrub. And then you scroll down a little bit and it's tucked down at the bottom of it. And it mentions some of the stuff she voted on. Hold on, let me see here. So, of course, that CNN's focusing on the legal protections on abortion. But here we go. She co-authored recent bills concerning reproductive health care, don't care, gender-affirming health care, don't care, a state health care public option. This was the one, and you can go look this up, because if I was actually doing my job right tonight, I'd actually be able to play a video where you can hear the audio on this. But the state healthcare public option, they had a vote on this, and she was one of like three. She was one of a handful of the Democrats that voted no to continue funding this program because it was such a massive drain on the state budget, and it was going to they knew it was going to non-citizens. And she's in the halls of the legislature after the vote, and she's crying, and she's just saying, my principles would not allow me to vote for this issue. And 5 days later, she's murdered in her home.
Yeah, I saw something on this as well, and
it was the last thing she voted on.
Is it coincidence, or is there something else? I don't know. You start talking about taking away free stuff for people, things happen. People act out on it. We saw
Who's
that.
Acting though in this scenario? Are we suggesting the Somali community, or are we suggesting more of other Democrat politicians, sort of powers that be, or on what side do you think is would be, if we're playing hypothetical here?
Well, I'm not really leaning too much into the who, but the why now absolutely makes sense. Now that we have the spotlight shown over here in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, and we know it's to the tune of billions, plural. And it's been going on for over a decade, and the state healthcare option was a big part of it as well. That's not really being focused on, the daycares. That's one piece of this whole pizza,
right?
So we know, there's estimations that this fraud is going to be in excess of $10 billion, which
wow.
In the grand scheme of the federal multi-trillion-dollar budget, that doesn't sound like a whole lot, but holy cow, man. $10 billion.
This isn't $10 billion going to defense contractors. This is $10 billion just getting sucked up by
a local community.
Yeah. That's a lot of money.
Right. And then you hear reports that it's funding terror groups like Al-Shabaab, things like people that are actually our enemies, and they have a foothold in this country now because of these programs.
Better warn Jacob Fry about that.
But I don't know if you guys saw, but Anna Paulina Luna today referred Tim Walz for prosecution to the DOJ over this. So, there's a possibility if, the Trump administration and that horrible, horrible attorney general that doesn't do anything right wanted to do something that would make their base happy, that Governor Retard could end up charged. But I don't know. They'll probably worry about Greenland or some other bullshit.
Yeah. Well, and here's another story. So as a result of all this, and this whole news cycle took 3 days to really flesh out, because it was like, the Nick Shirley thing goes viral, and then it gets 100 million views, 120 million views. I don't know what it's up to now, but it's over 100 million views. This whole video has of just Nick Shirley, just some random dude hearing a news story, going, you know what, I'll drive there and check it out. And then now there's pressure on Tim Walz. Hey, you need to resign. Don't run for re-election. And then, he does a press conference and says, over my dead body. And then here we are, 48 hours later, and he drops out of the race.
I saw this, and he also tried to make it out about being like, oh, I don't want the race to take away from my, almost like a ethical stance about it, instead of just like whatever the reality of this is. But that's all I saw, was that his wording on it seemed really pillowy about,
although I'm not sure Klobuchar is going to jump into the governor race. I mean, if Schumer steps out of the way, she's one of the more senior senators on the Democratic Party. She's in line for leadership there. I don't know if she would. Well, yeah, but regardless, this whole thing, I mean, we know what's going on. It's been great to see people actually going out. I've seen people in Pennsylvania going out and checking these daycares and seeing if there's kids there and seeing if they are what they are. I know other people around the country are going out there. They're just like, oh yeah, we can just go look up a list of people receiving grants like this and go see if they've actually got kids. Small
investment to have people that do that, to actually follow up on these after a while. Like, to pay, if you're gonna pay anyone in this country, pay someone to follow where the money's going, to see if it's just a dark room, there's no kids in it or whatever, like just to track down, I don't know, billions of dollars.
If you were acting honestly, but we've been through this. It's not, they know. No,
I know.
To some extent, they know. Yeah, this is going to fraud, but
that's kind of my point.
We've got these votes, and it doesn't cost us, going out there campaigning to it. We just have to spend taxpayer money on it.
Well, the same group of studies that I was referencing earlier that were showing that anywhere between 30 and 50% of all Medicare and Medicaid spending are waste, fraud, and abuse, also demonstrated that I don't remember the numbers exactly, but it's something along the lines of every dollar spent investigating fraud returns like an average of $100 saved from no longer paying fraudulent claims, which in a reasonable person's mind would suggest, maybe we should actually increase the amount that we spend investigating fraud if it has such an enormous return on investment. But of course they don't.
I think there's a law. I saw something on this, that there's a law that if you can find the federal fraud, you get a portion of the money.
Finder's fee
on stuff like this. Yeah, I can't remember. I have to see if I've saved it, but apparently you can just go out there and if you find the fraud and it results in some sort of prosecution or a seizure of assets, you can just save it. So
new side hustle.
So yeah, as a side hustle, just become a bounty hunter.
Fraud bounty hunter. We lost
Steven. Yeah, he said his PC just crashed. So he's rebooting. So continuing on about the whole mess in Minnesota on this. I don't know the immigration issue turns the left into complete retards. They were that already. Well, I know, but they behave even dumber over this. There's one thing if you're trying to protest, but you've seen in Portland, I believe them, making a scene outside of ICE's building there and whatever, attacking ICE or whatever they want to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we saw that, in this, I'm pretty sure the whole ICE thing we saw this come to a head, I guess, yesterday with an ICE agent shooting a woman in a car. And I'm still not clear. I've seen the video. I'm not clear on all of the details, but I mean, this is kind of where this leads to, right? You've got all these, you've got the left kind of pushing the narrative on immigration. Oh, it's so important that we have these people here, and all immigration is great, and we can't do anything to restrict it, and we can't have deportations, and anyone here has a right to be here, and anyone who wants to come here has a right to come here. All 8 billion people on this planet have a right to come here if they want. And so, the left turns out, ICE was doing, and let's not say I'm happy with what ICE does, right? Because they come out and they're acting in about the most thuggish, brutal way you can.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they are genuinely like acting kind of secret police Gestapo style a lot of the times on this.
Mm-hmm.
They're masked up, they're this, they're that. They grab, they've apparently grabbed U.S. citizens and just detain them.
I was telling a story about one of my friends' family members that was detained illegally, and they were a citizen.
Over nothing, just because that's what they're doing. So they are not acting in a good way either. But ICE was out there in Minneapolis, apparently targeted immigration raids is what they were claiming. And I guess there was a whole bunch of leftists protesting it. This lady, from what I've heard, and I haven't looked at I saw the actual shooting video. I did not look and see some of the other more context, but apparently was in her car and was was around in her car making a scene with it, in the way with it for a portion of the day. And then I guess it gets to the point that she's interfering to the point that they try to get tries to get her out, and I'm guessing a panic or whatever. But then you have the other ICE agent, like an idiot, step in front of the car as she's trying to turn, and then she continues
to try to stop it. I haven't even seen this yet.
Yeah. He got in front of the car and then pulled his gun and shot because she started driving towards him as he was moving in front of the car.
He walked in front of the car, then she moved, then he shot.
So he was like in front, and she was like trying to turn, and then he kind of was like partially kind of moving that way. I don't know if you have like the slowed down like close-up view on it, but
here we go.
Yeah, we can at least watch the video. You don't need to see
we can just narrate over it. So they approach her. Look at that. They start grabbing the door handle.
Yeah.
Wow.
You see he's up in front of it, and then
get the F out of the car. Like, above all else, these guys are supposed to be trained for de-escalation. What about that was de-escalating anything? Now, she was also driving in an area where she shouldn't be driving.
Yeah,
I get that, but
it's right. It's possible in this situation that everyone's in the wrong, and that's kind of where I fall on this.
The officer that jumped in front of her car, what the hell are you doing?
That's what I was saying. It's like, it sounds wrong on just all the way down with that, but
and that's I don't know these guys in particular, but I do know when you have a federal agency with a national problem saying, hey, we want to get millions out of this country, we'll give you a $50,000 sign-up bonus. You'll be untouchable. You'll be legally immune. Come sign up today. Mm-hmm. You're going to get the kind of guys that when you were growing up playing Super Nintendo and you kicked their ass in Street Fighter using just low kick, those are the ones that would grab the whole Super Nintendo and throw it across the room.
And you would think with the extravagant sign-on bonuses that they're offering and all the I'm not like every time I watch football now, it's like, hey, have you considered joining ICE? And it's like with their entire marketing budget and their extravagant sign-on bonuses, you would think you could actually not hire those people because you would have such a selection to choose from that you could actually pick people that were qualified to do the job. And don't get me wrong, I want people that are qualified to deport all the gang members and murderers and all that. But
fraudsters. Let's get the people who are committing fraud out too.
All I'm saying is that the folks in that video do not seem up to the task.
Well, that's like I'm saying, de-escalation was not present. And that is, in any kind of scenario like that, if you're trying to, shut down an area, you're going, like, the way to maintain control is through de-escalation. Because then if they escalate, then you go one level above, reestablish control, and bring it down. And jumping in front of the car, and then also trying to, shaking the door, get damn out of the car, rah! I mean, because I didn't see any markings on those vehicles either. I just see somebody blockading a street, and then guys in balaclavas with guns on their hip go pulling at the door. Now, you don't know the whole story. We got this 2-minute clip of an entire situation going on. There's a whole lifetime of information outside of this video, but
not to mention that, and I'm still trying to get her backstory because my understanding is this car is plated to like Missouri, not Minnesota.
There you go.
So is she from Minnesota? I have not had the time to look and get clear on that. The other thing that's going around is the term of the day isn't protester, isn't citizen who got caught up. It's legal observer. And apparently the news I'm seeing now on this is that she was a member of a group called Ice Watch. And is this a Soros funded group? Is she getting paid to be out there in the middle of the day on this? Like, what is?
Well, and who's recording the video?
That's always a fair question.
Because that's one thing I noticed too. Here, let me put it back up here on stage. You guys tell me what you think about this, because honestly, I've heard about this video. This has been, what all the chuckleheads on the radio have been talking about all day. This looks staged.
Yeah.
And these guys just took the cake.
I always ask the question, but is it staged?
I mean, it would be crazy if it was staged because she's dead.
Well, what she's trying to do?
Not dead. Unless you're saying this is like a false flag.
No. I think what he's saying is she was her and whatever groups she's with or whatever were trying to make a scene. She gets arrested. They've got their bail funds, whatever, and cause like a whole outrage on that. And she played a stupid game there with a bunch of idiots, and the idiots won.
Yeah, it's the Saul Alinsky playbook, which part of that started with. I know there was a group of local Democrats in Chicago. Was this like back in the 80s or the 90s? Like they would go into like zoning meetings, and they would all just go in there and rip farts on the front row and just disrupt the whole meeting.
A filibuster.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And the escalation of those tactics, because it's you get them to act irrationally. Is that an angle there? It certainly could be, because it's just who's got the camera? Like what's happening? Did the camera?
Why is there a camera focused that closely on it? And it's before the agents get out of the truck. Like I think there's more context that I haven't gone on. Yeah.
Like and how are they allowed to be there?
This is what I want to see more.
People get out of the truck, because if I'm the ICE agent in the back seat, the first thing I'm going is, hey, I got a camera over here. I can't slap it out of their hand legally, but I'm going to go stand in front of it.
Obscure.
Stand in front of it, back people off from your scene, whatever you're supposed to.
They don't even seem to acknowledge it, as far as I know.
Right.
Which is
like
interesting.
Who's filming it and why are they there? And that's okay. But
I mean, it's possible. Again, the quality of people probably signing up to be ICE agents. These aren't the brightest people.
There you go.
Like I said, I mean, we've seen them. Like I said, they are complete thugs. They act like complete thugs. They're on the par kind of secret police style tactics.
And, in times like these, and with an edict like that over that section of the agency where their main mission is bag them up, throw them out. That's your stated purpose. You're not going to get the best and the brightest. You're not going to get the ones that ask intelligent questions and kind of rationalize situations. You're going to go, okay, bag up, throw away. Gotcha. Bag them up, throw them out.
Especially under federal immunity, because I know part of this now is that the Trump administration is saying the FBI has the investigation, and Walz wants Minnesota had to have the investigation on this. And you know that those two are going to reach completely opposite conclusions.
Yeah.
Steven, you raised a really important question a couple of minutes ago, which is what's one level of force higher than a fart?
If anyone comes out with anything from this today,
where will you be when diarrhea strikes? that's the ultimate question there. I would say Pepto-Bismol, maybe, but only 30 to 45 minutes in advance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's my.
Well,
answer
shall we
there.
stop talking about Africans and move on to Middle Easterners now?
It's 9:30 already.
Yeah, here we go. I should be able to play this video. Here we go.
I am not fucking drunk.
Well, my teeth are blue.
Every pretty girl deserves to go to a ball.
This is everything about it's a clam. I love it.
I gotta be honest with you, I feel like I'm a little bit too drunk to stand up. On Wiedersehen, asshole.
I'm drunk right now.
All right, let's see what we got here.
Hey,
Holy shit.
you can't do that. That's against the law. Wilding, I'm not start doing business, bro. I'm not gonna run you over. Get away from my car, bro.
Okay,
Get away from my car. Get away from my car.
Why are you out of the car?
Bro, get away from my car. I have a daughter in Brooklyn.
Don't touch him! Get in your car!
Get the out of the way. Run him over.
Don't touch him!
Get out of the way. I have to get home.
There it is.
We want to be free to do what we want to do.
Yeah.
We want to get loaded.
Yeah.
And we want to have a good time.
Yep.
I've always been afraid of this scenario because I'm like, I'm not just gonna sit there and wait 4 hours for people for whatever purpose. I don't care. Like, that's ridiculous.
No.
So, who knows what side of us all we'd see if we were put in the situation of being blockaded for some stupid reason. So,
all you got to do is just lay on the horn and say, "Oh my God, they're coming right at me," and just hammer the gas down.
Hey, in relevance to the previous story, I'm just seeing this now. Border Patrol shot someone in a car today in Oregon.
the border is that?
Really close to the border.
Yeah, that's what I was like. The coast,
The Canadian border, like.
Yeah.
It says the passenger of the vehicle and target is a Venezuelan illegal alien affiliated with the transnational Tren de Agua prostitution ring and involved in a recent shooting in Portland.
So he's not there for the organic ketchup.
The vehicle driver is believed to be a member of the vicious Venezuelan gang Tren de Agua. When the agents identified themselves to this vehicle occupants, the driver weaponized his vehicle and attempted to run over law enforcement agents. Fearing for his life and safety, an agent shot and fired a defensive shot. The driver drove off with the passenger. Yeah, so 2 days in a row on that one.
So but the Tren de Agua guy, he's done for, right? Like he didn't have a testimony.
What do you mean?
Is he dead?
From my understanding, no.
Oh.
From my understanding,
and that, folks, is the difference between ICE and Border Patrol. ICE spends time on the range.
I guess
as we have
they
just seen.
Wounded both suspects, who then fled before being hospitalized.
Well,
that's that's the whole thing, and we've kind of mentioned it before too. Is like a home defense situation. Regardless of what state you live in, if somebody breaks in your house and you shoot them, you do not stop shooting them until you're out of bullets.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's very hard to prove that you were trying to defend yourself. I mean,
depends on the trajectory of said bullet. If they're on the ground and you're,
but if you're really in fear for your life, it's going to be, just go watch Night of the Living Dead, the original, the one that's like almost black and white.
Romero.
You can see the progression. Great acting in that movie, by the way. You can see the progression toward the end of the movie. Just the feral, I'm going to defend myself with everything I got. You know,
It's
rather
a cool
than
movie, the original like zombie movie, basically, because it becomes more of a story. At first, you think it's like people versus zombie, but then it really becomes like a trust thing, almost like The Thing, like people versus people a little, and it's cool.
yeah. So
Iran.
why is Border Patrol in Oregon? We've talked about Border Patrol in Oregon before, haven't we?
Probably. It sounds like
They're on the coast. That's a border.
Yeah.
Border Patrol can be anywhere 100 miles from the border.
Oh, gee
sometimes
whiz.
more.
That's wild. Yeah. So here's our next story, guys. So in the game of Othello, of toppling regimes, flipping over governments, maintaining hegemony, we wonder. And of course, this one, I mean, we all knew it was 47 years in the making, from when the Ayatollah took over, Khomeini. So, from the time he's been in power, we've known that, something like this was eventually going to happen. And I've mentioned before, too, because I've actually, there's a friend of mine. I've been up at bars with him for the Marine Corps birthday and stuff like that. And shared some cigarettes on the back deck with Persians, and they talk about this. They're like, most of us over there, we're between the ages of 30 and 50. We want to have kids. We want peace. We want some degree of freedom. All we wanted, we want our wives to be able to go to college and, listen to rock and roll music and drive around town and
normal stuff.
Normal things, right? Things that have kind of been outlawed. And first and foremost is the money. That's always the catalyst for any of this. Is you wake up one day and your money's worthless, and so then you turn around to the people you've trusted to run your country and keep you safe and secure, because above all else, that's what we sacrifice freedom for, right? Safety and security. I mean, we don't, not us four in the panel here, but people in general. What you're going to give up any kind of freedoms for is the guarantee of safety and security. So once those go away, when you wake up in the morning, and what bought a dozen eggs last week doesn't even get you in the front door, you got a problem. When you're paying just as much for a dozen eggs one day as you did for your mortgage 2 weeks ago, that's a big problem. And that's what we're dealing with the Iranian. Gosh, is it the rial? Whatever their currency.
I think it's the rial. Yeah,
that's right.
Compared to the dollar. Let me go ahead and look that up while we're at it. Zane, what you got on this while I look that up?
I mean, nothing that would really be any different from the analysis of our intervention in Iraq 20 years ago, where the regime is bad. The question isn't whether or not the regime's bad. The question is only what would be the impact of us getting involved. And I think because the parallels to Iraq are much stronger when you're talking about Iran than it is when you're even talking about Venezuela. Just because the people of Iran are in a tight spot and the mullahs are crazy Muslims that no one likes, that's not a good enough reason for the U.S. to inject ourselves. It's maybe a good enough reason for us to lend our moral support to the protesters or whatever. Because obviously you can really sympathize with what they want. I heard a really interesting stat, which is that when the people of Iran are surveyed anonymously, only 30 to 40% of them are even believing Muslims at all. It's actually called the Great Apostasy, and all of Islam really is having this problem, where in the past 15 to 20 years, a lot of Muslims are waking up to the fact that their religion has absolutely no evidence and is all based on a bunch of lies, and they're all leaving. And so even in Iran, which most Americans think of as like the capital of Muslims that hate America and all that, only less than 40% of people even believe in what all the mullahs are telling them. So we can definitely be hoping and praying that the regime of the mullahs comes down, but the way of facilitating that is probably for us to just stay out of it and let what's going to happen. Because if we invaded, what's going to happen is that the Iranians that on one day were protesting against their own government are going to rally around their government in opposition to foreign intervention. This happens a lot, where the best way to unify a divided population is to have an outside force attack them.
Absolutely, and that's why Trump's even acknowledged this. That's kind of our best move there too, and I think he's even put out a message in the last couple of days to, the UN, NATO, all that kind of stuff. Like, hey, let this one play out. Until you start seeing tens of thousands or more dying in the streets, like this needs to happen. This needs, let this be organic. This is, this has been a long time in the making. And finding the story now. So here we go.
Will Trump's boss let that happen, or will Trump's boss want to intervene?
Yeah, good point. He
was just over here. He was just over here begging for intervention there.
Well, being that it's organic like it is, you would think that whoever is poised to take over, which they've been either imprisoned or killed over the last 47 years, but whoever is actually poised to take over right now would actually be making some phone calls right now. Like, hey, I'm about to make a move. Don't bomb me. Hey, don't drone me, bro. I'm about to get elected. Something like that. And,
I don't even know if they have anyone identified beyond just like trying to put the Shah's son on the throne.
Yeah,
the Nepo baby kid.
And he's it. It's the Shah's son. I forget how to pronounce his name. There you go. But then, so talking about the currency. So this is what was this? This story is back from December 15th. Okay. Back as far as 2018. So you just go back 7 years. 140,000 Iranian rial gets you a US dollar. Okay. Now, all of a sudden, in mid-December, it goes up to 1.3 million. I heard some speculation that, once that got up to north of 1.5, once it started getting up to 2 million rials per dollar, like that's absolutely riots in the streets. That's, like I said, that's that level where you go to the grocery store and what paid your mortgage 2 weeks ago can't even buy a carton of eggs.
I had never looked into their money and the exchange rate to realize it was that far off.
Dude, anytime
that's
you
approaching
see
like Zimbabwe stuff.
Yes, it is. And that's what I'm saying. Anytime you see riots in the streets and it starts in the markets, the bazaars, anything like that, it's because the currency has been debased. There's a lot of crap these people put up with, and we're talking 47 years in the making, multiple generations now, brainwashing culture. This is just how it is. Just go to work and keep doing your thing, and at least we're protected. Well, now, a week's pay can't buy you a carton of eggs. I'm going to fist fight somebody. That's a problem. And that's the kind of problem that gets fixed quick. So that's to me, that's the catalyst. I don't. We all know the politics. We're talking, totalitarian, religious zealots running the place. So you name it, what all is going on with that. But you can go to Google Images and you can just look at. It was like a upscale ski resort. I mean, it was like Aspen, Colorado, in parts of Iran just 40 years ago, just back in the 80s. People wanted to go there. Just normal place. Just like Jordan back in the 50s.
Yeah, you see them in the cities. They're wearing women are wearing jeans and like regular stuff, and then
So now, and a lot of the blue hairs are going to go get upset about this, but hey, look, this is one area of the world where a woman, from a legal perspective, a woman is worth less than half of a man if it goes down to a legal testimony in court. She's wearing her niqab, she's wearing her hijab on, and it's kind of crooked. Yeah, you can just beat her to death, no problem. She stepped out of line. It's all good. Oh, you're gay? We're going to throw you off a rooftop. Right. And that's one of those things where it's like, it's a powder keg. But to me, the catalyst was the currency. Once it's been debased to that level, I mean, we're talking 100x. That's a big problem right there. That's
on the other side of the currency side. We were talking about this a little bit with like Venezuela and South America and stuff. Wasn't Iran one of the other like handful of countries that was like opposed to embracing like the US petrodollar or whatever with like global exchange or whatever? I thought
Yeah.
there was something about them like being one of the few that were like resisting it, and there was like weird pressures there. And there's been people that were saying something that might be like a reason to basically go to war, because like there's a history of the countries that resist the system in that way, and they basically get turned around in the physical.
But then you can look at it from like the libertarian perspective of let's stay out of it. You look at Iran has not officially. Now we know they're the number one state sponsor of terror. That's been the talking point since Bush was in office. But aside from that, they haven't really been, as far as global headlines, they haven't been the aggressor since the Persian Empire.
Well, it's because all of the supposed terror groups that the Iranian regime funds are not the people that actually attack the United States. It's all just kind of intersectarian attacks between different groups of Muslims that don't concern the U.S. at all.
Yeah, the one, it's the Saudis that we support and are the ones that attack the U.S.
Right. So, in terms of like actual Iranian military or Iranian military, put your pinky out when you say it. In terms of them actually doing anything, like I said, it hadn't been since the fall of the Persian Empire. They were the aggressor. So it's really interesting, and like I said, demographically, it's a very interesting mix over there. What is the population of Iran? Because I know they're not a small country either.
It's over 100 million.
Let's see here. Yeah, so 92 million is 2025 stats.
Okay.
And most of them, so like our biggest section here is the boomers. So 60 plus. Their biggest section of the population is 30 to 50. So demographically speaking, you get that currency back on base, they're ready to go to work and have families and grow. It's going to be great. If freedom actually wins, if liberty wins in this one, this is going to be exciting to watch. This is these are great times to live in, y'all. I mean, because like South America, parts of them going through a rebirth. It's one of those things that like, hey, you hear about, global depression, global poverty, this, that, and the other. It's like, okay, we've got the technology now. Let's bring everybody up. Let's get with this, right? Rising tide raises all ships. I'm going to throw out all the buzzwords right now, but like that's kind of where I'm going with this. I mean, like there's going to be some ugly times to get through this, but if Iran is actually allowed to organically rebalance themselves, it's going to be great to see them. Like what happens to the UN?
I never understood that.
Well, you know what I have to say about that? The proof of the pudding is in the eating.
Boom.
Another
This should be the title of this show.
Yeah.
Speaking of title,
Our shows don't have titles, unfortunately.
Yes, they do. It's just Jake assigns it before the show, so it won't go on his head.
All right. Well, speaking of titles, let's see who can defend it this time. And let's see. Do I have a trivia intro?
You should.
the weirdest, most AI song I've ever heard.
Yeah, right.
Has anyone told Jake that the lyrics don't make any sense?
No, the first line is directed at me, the second line is directed at him, and then the third line is directed at Nick. So,
right.
There we go. And then hold on, let me get the Fat Rat Unity.
There we go.
What is he? Hold on, he told me what he usually puts the volume at.
That's about right there.
100.
Oh, yeah.
All right, everyone. Welcome to another week of Libations Trivia.
Probably the latest we've ever started trivia.
It is the current time is 9:48 Eastern.
I think we've started around 10, maybe once or twice before.
Wow. Huh?
We didn't have Jake here to keep things moving along, so we just went, we went in depth on those ones.
Yeah. Well, we'll just have to clip the trivia and put it out later so that people will watch it because they've got.
We also started late.
That's
only
fair.
10 minutes.
Anyway, as usual, we've got trivia in 3 rounds. Round 1, 8 questions, 1 point each. Round 2, 6 questions, 2 points each. And round 3, 4 questions, 3 points each. If you are in the audience, assuming that anyone is still in the audience at this late hour of the night, please leave a comment with your answer, and I will accept the first answer that's not obviously a joke. Tonight's categories. Round 1, we've got Happy New Year. Round 2 is 2026 preview. And round 3, Internet Brain Rot. Round 1, question 1. What U.S. state is named for the English county highlighted here? You've only got so many options.
Yeah, you've only got 50.
Well,
Right.
if you were paying attention to the category name, you have a few less than that. Steven?
New Hampshire.
Alden?
I started with that and I changed to New York. I panicked.
Nick?
Yeah, I knew it's not York, it's not Jersey, so I went with New Hampshire.
Yeah.
The audience says New York. The county of York is actually the big one up there, pretty far up north. This is New Hampshire.
Oh, man. I literally
Yeah.
erased my first answer. I used to live in New Hampshire. I should have just stuck with it.
Question 2. The Police, Blondie, Talking Heads, Duran Duran, The Cure, and Depeche Mode are all bands associated with what musical genre? Steven?
New Wave.
Alden?
New Wave.
Yeah.
New Wave.
Old
Audience doesn't have anything yet, but we'll see if one comes in the next couple seconds. But it is a new wave.
Mm-hmm.
Question 3. After the utter failure of full socialism, Vladimir Lenin introduced a series of market reforms to the USSR during the 1920s. These were collectively known by what term? It was something crazy, like between 1913 and 1919, the standard of living inside Russia fell 90%.
Wow.
And that wasn't good.
Some would say.
Right.
Steven?
New handouts.
Alden?
I have no idea. I put new rules. Who even knows? New shit.
Yeah.
Neo-Leninism.
This was known as New Economic Policy.
Oh, I was so close.
The audience says New Socialism, which honestly not a bad guess.
Basically.
All right, question 4. What beverage, first introduced in 1985, was renamed to Coke 2 between 1992 and 2002 when it was discontinued? Steven?
New Coke.
Alden?
New pop? I have no idea. New
Nick?
Coke would have been my. I'm trying to make it interesting, I guess.
Nick?
Yeah, I said New Coke also.
Audience also says New Coke.
New
It is
Coca-Cola.
New Coke.
Oh, should have just said it. What do you do? I didn't even heard of Coke too.
Oh, it was terrible.
Question 5. The name of what port city on the James River in Southern Virginia fits this category twice? Steven?
I'm gonna say New Nouveau.
Alden?
I said New Newport.
Oh,
Nick?
Alden's very close because the answer is actually Newport News.
Oh,
I'm actually going to give Alden half a point because
thank you.
the answer is Newport News.
I was one letter off and mirrored.
Question 6. What man's song You've Got a Friend in Me was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Original Song in 1995? It lost to Colors of the Wind from Pocahontas.
Ready?
Steven?
I got nothing.
Alden?
Randy Newman.
Nick?
Yep, Randy Newman.
It is Randy Newman. Question 7.
Thomas Newman.
What drastic simplification of regular English is promoted by the party in the novel 1984 as a means of preventing any dissident thought?
I had that answer before you finished reading the question.
I'm going to go the obvious Coke route here.
Steven?
New think.
Alden?
Is it just New English?
Nick?
Newspeak.
Newspeak.
Oh,
Audience also says Newspeak. That's right.
that is.
Question 8. What 1992 film and subsequent 2012 musical was based on a real-life strike against the New York World and the New York Journal in 1899? Steven?
Newsboys?
Alden?
Pretty sure it's Live Nudes.
Yeah.
Nick?
Newsies.
Audience also has it. It is Newsies.
Yeah. As soon as you said it, I was like, whoops.
Yeah.
At the end of round 1, we've got Nick out in front with 7. Audience and Steven with 3. Alden was 2.5.
Yay. One of these days, that half point's going to matter.
Didn't it already once? Or was that
Did it? Oh, I don't know. I don't know if I've
Round
done
2,
that.
2026 preview. Question 1. February 8th, Charlie Puth will sing the national anthem and Bad Bunny will headline the halftime show at the Super Bowl denoted by what Roman numeral? Steven?
L?
Alden?
I put LV.
Nick?
LI.
Dang it.
It's all right.
You were
I meant to
also
say
close.
LX. I meant to say
It
LX.
is LX.
Fuck.
I don't know what
Audience says XL, which is also close but wrong.
Super Bowl 40, the Steelers played in against the Seahawks.
So I get half
Oh,
credit?
yeah.
No.
Yeah, we all had an L, so we can just all.
If I
half
gave
credit
you
and then-
half credit, I'd
yeah.
have to give everyone else half credit, and
Right,
then there's
yeah.
no point.
Exactly.
Question 2. April 5th, billions will celebrate what holiday, the date of which is determined each year using an algorithm known as Computus Pascalis? Steven?
I've got to be way off on this one, but Easter?
Alden?
That's what I said.
Nick?
Unless it's April.
Nerd
Fool's
Easter.
Day.
Audience also says Easter. It is Easter.
Yeah. I always thought it was just the first Sunday after the first full moon after the equinox.
Well,
After the
it's
first
actually
blue
very
moon.
complicated to calculate that, which is why you need a whole algorithm to do it.
Okay.
Question 3. July 4th, the United States will celebrate the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. Provide one of the 3 names for a 250th anniversary derived from the following Latin etymologies. So the first one is half of 5 times 100. The second one is 2 plus 1/2 times 100. And the last one is 2 1/2 times 100.
Is it Easter?
No. If you know what the word for 150th anniversary is, that might help you, but that's also very obscure. The only reason that I knew it is when I was in Boy Scouts, I lived in Maryland, and there was this huge Boy Scout camp out at Antietam Battlefield for the 150th anniversary of the Battle of Antietam. So it was a word of the day. Anyhow, Steven.
I've got do ex havo X, and I don't know what 100 is.
Alden.
I am not guessing that.
Nick.
I think it's sesquicentennial.
That is for 150, and the audience also says the audience says sesquicentennial, which is a combination of a couple different answers that are right, but that one's not right. I think that one might even be like 550th, but anyway, the 3 I'm looking for are semi-quincentennial, which is half of 5. Then we've got bisesquicentennial, which is, so the sesquicentennial is 150, and then the bisesqui makes it 250 because 2 plus 1/2.
Never mind.
So, and then in Latin, the number 2 1/2 by itself is literally translated as half 3.
Wouldn't 2 of 150 be 3?
So
I don't understand Latin.
sesquicentennial is the last one.
Sesquicentennial. Roll Tide.
It has been a while since I took Latin.
I've never taken Latin, so
I quit after junior year of high school.
All right, no one gets any points on that.
It was my worst class.
Chug a beer and say any of those words 3 times.
Oh my god. Ridiculous.
Question 4. July 17th. What Christopher Nolan film with an estimated budget of $250 million and shot entirely on 70mm IMAX cameras will be theatrically released?
This year?
Yes.
This is a new movie?
Yes.
Oh. I don't know what the hell he's up to.
Steven?
The Odyssey, baby.
Oh. The new Dark Knight.
Nick?
Interstellar 2. I know Steven's right now that he said it because now
I heard about this name at some point.
The audience also has it. It is the Odyssey.
I'm pumped.
Question 5. July 19th. MetLife Stadium will host the final match of what tournament, which is newly expanded from 32 teams to 48 for 2026? Steven?
The NBA Finals.
Alden?
Ping pong.
Nick?
Yeah.
This would be the World Cup.
Well, I've got to say, Steven, leave it to the NBA to expand their playoffs to include more teams than are actually in the NBA. because that is something they would do. But the audience also has it. It is the FIFA World Cup. Question 6. November 3rd, which of Georgia's 2 senators will be up for re-election?
I haven't lived here long enough to know my senators.
Steven?
The Oshat, John Ossoff.
Alden?
I have no idea.
Nick?
I did say John as well.
Just John.
I couldn't remember Ossoff. I'm like, I can't remember his name for once. But I knew it was John.
The last name rule, or are we going to give it to him?
No, no points for only first name, but it is the man himself, John Ossoff.
But I could get points for just last name.
Yeah.
Is he an Oshole, or is he cool?
He's an Oshat. I'll give you that.
Oh, you did say,
yeah. He sucks. And
although I do have to give credit where it's due. He has gone on morning radio news, multiple stations, and fielded all kinds of random questions and processed them on the spot, not with just like canned responses.
Like how to say 250 in Latin or some crazy thing, or, you know.
Yeah, there's always some of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Did he ever answer questions about his daddy and the Chinese yachts?
You know, oddly enough, those questions don't ever make it onto the air.
Yeah.
All right. Well, at the end of round 2, we've got Alden with 4.5. Steven and the audience making a little bit of a comeback with 9 each, and Nick has 11.
Okay, I move forward in that round.
So round 3, internet brain rot.
Great.
Question 1. To counter young people's chronically short attention spans, many internet clips are now paired with gameplay of what 2012 mobile game? And we've got a picture of what I'm talking about here, where you've got some kind of podcast clip or other clip on top. And then to keep people's attention, you've got gameplay of this game in the bottom.
This was like the answer to Candy Crush, I think.
I've seen them do this. I've seen like Minecraft. I've seen other games too. They do it, and it's weird. I never understood what it was, why they were doing it that way instead of just talking. And now you're telling me the reason that they do it. Okay.
Steven?
Subway Surfer?
Alden?
Is that a real... I mean, it's not this. I'm just going to say Crash Bandicoot just to say a better game that has coins to collect. I don't know.
Nick?
Is it Coin Run? I remember this game. I can't remember the name.
Audience also has it. It is Subway Surfers.
You know what? I'm actually glad I didn't get that one.
The slightly more modern version of Temple Run.
Temple Run, that's what I was thinking. Maybe. I don't know.
Question 2. The cover image for the Wikipedia article on AI slop is this picture with what nickname? It has somehow proved extremely good at driving engagement among clueless boomers on Facebook.
Oh my god.
I've never seen this image before in my life.
I haven't either. So
no, me neither.
I'm naming it right now.
So am I.
All right, well, let's see if you name it right. Steven?
Jesus Crustacean.
Alden?
I just put Lobster Jesus, a.k.a. Jordan Peterson.
Nick?
Holy shrimp.
All of you guys are very, very close, but the audience does have it.
Oh, really?
Because this is Shrimp Jesus.
Didn't even look like
I nearly put that, and then I was like, no, there's got to be a better play on it. And so maybe Holy Shrimp makes sense.
Holy Diver.
Question 3. What company drew criticism in 2024 and again in 2025 for using generative AI to make its holiday commercials? Among many things to complain about, the most egregious is likely that the company's own name was misspelled in one of them.
That's fucking hilarious. Oh my god.
I knew about the AI commercials from before, but the fact about the name being misspelled, I also saw on the AI Slop Wikipedia article.
Nice.
Steven?
Coca-Cola?
Alden?
Starbucks spelled Starfucks.
Nick?
Target?
Audience has it again, as does Steven, because it is Coca-Cola.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Of all the companies, they have the money to make their own commercial. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, they can do it right. They could at least edit that to be right if they're gonna.
Well, the other problem is
Horrendous.
if you watch the commercials, the wheels on the trucks are not right at all. Like, it looks like the trucks are just gliding across the road. It doesn't look like they're actually driving.
Yeah, we've come a long way from the polar bears at Christmas time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But their logo looked right in this.
Question 4.
And so is this.
Pictured here is Tralalero Tralala, Nike wearing shark and central character of various intentionally absurd memes, named after what ethnicity?
What? Is this going to be... Whatever I come up with is going to be offensive. Unless it's right, and then is it more offensive? This is a trap question. I don't like this.
Named after what ethnicity?
I mean, it's a white shark. Like...
Steven?
Jamaican?
Alden?
I mean, I'm going white. Because I
Nick?
can make fun of myself.
Part of me is thinking Italian, but I ended up sticking with the theme of tonight and saying Somalians.
So the audience not only has the answer, but is also now commenting other characters in this genre of meme.
Oh, wow.
So the audience definitely deserves the win tonight
And a
because
bonus point.
Tralalero Tralala is a central character of Italian brain rot.
Wow.
So my thought was right, but I had to go with.
Yeah.
So final scores, we've got Alden was 4.5, Nick was 11, Steven was 15, and the audience was 21.
Wow. Smoked us.
Ooh, audience kicked my ass at the end there. I am not up on my brain rot, which is, I guess, a good thing. And whoever in the audience is.
Well, and how fitting that we actually have a gnome in the audience wins banner, and we've got Grumpy back in the audience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you knew the answers to all the AI brain slop, get off the internet for a little bit.
Stop being so terminally online, everyone.
Yes.
Yeah. So the funnies this evening, that's why I put trivia kind of toward the end. We let the front run long because the end, we don't have material with me not doing my job right and playing videos.
Yeah.
So, the good news section, what did Jake have on this one?
You can do some silent reels.
Yeah. So this was something about digital ID in the UK.
Oh. Yeah.
Okay, support for digital ID has collapsed from 57% when Starmer first took over it to 38% now.
Oh, good. Okay, so
opposition is now at 48%. 47% is now strongly opposed. This is the UK. So they all see it as a fundamental threat to their liberty. The idea that they floated over Christmas, the newborn babies would immediately be given a digital ID is just as sinister, if not worse. There you go. And this
Good
guy's
for
saying,
them, finally. That's a big hell no.
Yeah. And these guys are saying, like, I got a new dog over Christmas, new horse. They all got microchips. They have a digital ID. You can track and trace them and all that kind of stuff like their property. So imagine the government doing that to you.
Right. Yeah.
So there we go. That's good news there because, they do have a saying that whatever happens in the UK is going to happen here in 20 years.
Yeah. That's why I've been so afraid to see what the hell's going on over there.
At least none of us are eating Marmite.
We don't do beans on toast, so.
I have Marmite.
Another good news, though. I do have one other quick good news.
Okay.
Tax stamps are now free as of January 1st.
Yeah.
So what the internet is saying to do right now, and you can go to openpewproject.org, and it walks you through the steps, and you can get files or whatever. But they're saying 3D print a suppressor. It's only going to cost a couple, a buck or so in material. Go file your Form 1, get your tax stamp for free, shoot it until it breaks, destroy it properly, file the paperwork with the ATF saying you destroyed it, then file another Form 1 and print another one. And bog the ATF down in paperwork over plastic junk.
That's hilarious.
You're on mute, Steven.
So, guys, we as we wrap up here, just want to give you guys a reminder. If any of you are in Georgia, the Georgia State Libertarian Party is having their convention next weekend in Peachtree City, just around the corner from me. So that's going to be pretty cool. So, if you're free, then come on out and see us. I'm going to try my best to be there. I know Zane's going to be there. And then
you're looking at the secretary, the chair of the bylaws committee, and the chair of the platform committee, aka the most boring person imaginable.
There we go. Who better to celebrate America's sesquicentennial?
Sesquicentennial.
Whatever.
Which is set up like two 150s, but somehow means 250.
No, it's 2 plus 1/2. So the bi set. So it's Actually, wait, you're kind of right.
I remember you describing it, and I remember thinking it made no goddamn sense. But whatever, we can defend it. That's
wow.
fine.
Yeah. Well, anyways,
it's almost like the half. The half is like in between the part that is the 2 and the 100.
Anyways, if you're listening to this still at this point, we love you from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you. If you like the stories we share, you like the thought processes we throw out, please join the Dollar Media Club. Let us do all the doom scrolling for you. We'll aggregate the news. We'll put it up in the Discord chat that you'll get access to. You get to interact with us. You get to argue with us, and you don't have to come on here to argue with us. You can just do it on the Discord.
Learn about Shrimp Jesus or whatever.
Absolutely, yeah. We run the gamut from Bitcoin news to AI slop. Come get you some at the Dollar Media Club. Give us the fuel we need to keep doing this. Like and subscribe, share with your friends. We love you so much. And with that, we bid you adieu. Cheers.
That didn't work.